In the early morning hours of April 4, 1933, the pride of the U.S. Navy, the airship USS Akron, flew directly into a violent storm off the coast of New Jersey. Opposing winds sheared the massive aircraft, tearing it in half and sending 73 men to their deaths in the Atlantic Ocean. The government had no idea the storm was there. The United States Weather Bureau had officially cleared that exact route, reporting safe flying skies ahead. Their forecasting tools had failed entirely. But hours before the crash, one person had explicitly warned the local radio operator about severe wind shear waiting along the Akron's path. His name was Irving Krick, a former concert pianist who had recently pivoted to studying meteorology at Caltech. In the 1930s, the government relied almost entirely on local, ground-level barometric pressures to guess the weather 1 or 2 days out. They treated the atmosphere as a chaotic force. Krick looked at their methods and realized they were approaching the problem completely backward. This animation illustrates Krick's transition from local tracking to global analysis. Instead of tracking scattered surface pressures from the ground up, he analyzed the atmosphere from the top down, tracking how warm tropical air and freezing Arctic air collided. By compiling decades of historical data, Krick discovered these global air masses repeated in reliable 6-day cycles, allowing weather predictions nearly a week in advance. Commercial industries immediately grasped the value of knowing the future. Krick was quickly hired to guarantee tailwinds for early commercial airlines, and film studios paid him to pinpoint the exact windless night required to safely burn Atlanta for the filming of Gone with the Wind. The agricultural sector realized massive returns. By accurately forecasting a devastating January frost, Krick allowed citrus growers across California, Arizona, and Texas to protect their groves, saving millions of dollars in a single week. Private clients willingly paid premium fees for Krick's long-range forecasts rather than use the government's free service. Humiliated, the U.S. Weather Bureau launched a public smear campaign, warning clients that Krick was a salesman peddling unproven theories. As World War II expanded across the oceans, a single localized storm could now ground entire fleet divisions or lead an air wing into a lethal icing trap. The need for long-range forecasting shifted from corporate balance sheets to the survival of the Allied cause. Even with the country at war, the Weather Bureau continued its petty feud. Under the guise of national security, they abruptly cut off Krick's access to the vital weather teletype machines he needed to run his lab. But top military brass had seen Krick's results. General Hap Arnold, head of the Air Force, personally intervened. He pulled Krick into the military, bypassed the bureaucracy entirely, and set up a dedicated weather unit under Krick's command. Working with military intelligence in 1942, Krick noticed a cold front shielding the Aleutian Islands. He calculated the enemy's movements and pointed to June 3rd on the calendar. On that exact day, the Japanese hit Dutch Harbor, and the U.S. forces were waiting for them. When General George S. Patton prepared to invade North Africa, he needed a precise reading of the surf conditions a month before his ships arrived. While the Navy admitted they couldn't see more than a few days ahead, Krick provided a month-long forecast of specific sea swells, allowing the amphibious landings to proceed safely. By February of 1944, the Allies needed multiple clear days in a row to bomb German aircraft factories. Using his historical catalogs, Krick found a rare 3-day window of clear weather pushed by a high-pressure system. The bombers flew exactly as predicted, and they decimated the German Luftwaffe at Leipzig. Everything hinged on the invasion of Normandy. To safely land 2 million men and millions of tons of equipment on the French coast, Allied planners required a precise 5-day window of conditions, a period of low winds, clear visibility for bombers, and calm surf. As the first week of June in 1944 finally arrived, the weather over the Atlantic was highly volatile. British and U.S. establishment weathermen predicted an unrelenting storm front hitting the Channel and demanded the invasion be canceled entirely. This map of the English Channel shows the split in the war room. While the establishment forecasted a solid block of bad weather, Krick and his team used their analog models to spot a narrow wedge of high pressure pushing through the storm. They argued it would create a brief, clear window for the landings. Facing intense pressure and conflicting reports, General Dwight D. Eisenhower broke the tie. He overrode the establishment weathermen, trusted Krick's long-range forecast, and gave the order to go. The massive invasion fleet crossed the channel without interference from the weather. Krick's transition from civilian citrus groves to the English Channel proved his global models were robust enough to support the largest amphibious landing ever attempted. After the war, Krick took his understanding of the atmosphere further. He transitioned from predicting the weather to attempting to actively manipulate it. This diagram shows how he accomplished it. Krick developed ground generators that pumped silver iodide, a chemical with a crystal structure nearly identical to ice, up into the atmosphere. Once inside a supercooled cloud, these artificial particles triggered a process called ice nucleation, causing moisture to rapidly bond and form heavy snowflakes. By timing the release, Krick forced clouds to drop heavy precipitation over a targeted grid that would have otherwise remained dry. The real-world impact was immediate. During the severe droughts of the 1950s, Krick's cloud seeding operations saved millions of acres of American farmland from ruin, and he was hired by foreign governments to successfully replenish massive international hydroelectric reservoirs in Spain and France. Instead of adopting the science, the U.S. Weather Bureau escalated their fight. They lobbied Congress to try and outlaw private weather forecasters entirely and dispatched agents to farming conventions specifically to smear Krick and discourage ranchers from hiring him. The bureaucratic infighting lasted for decades. During the costly, weather-related delays of Project Mercury's space launch in 1962, Krick offered his long-range forecasting services to NASA. The Weather Bureau advised the space agency to ignore him. John Glenn finally broke atmosphere and orbited the Earth nearly a month behind schedule. Irving Krick never won over the U.S. establishment, but his legacy is absolute. He proved that the atmosphere is a connected, predictable system and showed that humanity no longer had to live at the absolute mercy of the weather.